Chapter 7 goes back in time 1 month to Exodus 40, when the tabernacle was completed. The heads of the tribes bring offerings for the Levites, which include wagons for carrying the various parts of the tabernacle. The Kohathites get nothing because they are responsible for transporting the most holy items, including the ark, and these must be carried on their shoulders. The tribal leaders also bring offerings for the altar when it was dedicated. The chapter is repetitive as it basically describes the same thing for 12 days in a row, but this serves to underline the unity of the tribes in this focus on the presence of God and the sense of generosity and provision in this relationship between God and his chosen people. The majority of chapter 8 describes the dedication of the Levites, and here we can see the distinction between the Levites in general and the Aaronide Levites, the ones descended from Aaron. That is, all priests are Levites, but not all Levites are priests. In Genesis 46:11, when Jacob and his sons went down to Egypt, the sons of Levi are listed as Gershon, Kohath, and Merari, which is as we have them here in Numbers. Moses and Aaron are from the clan of Kohath, which is perhaps why they were entrusted with the most holy things. However, it is Aaron and his descendants who are set apart from the rest of their clan and tribe to serve as priests at the altar. The Levites, as is shown in Numbers 8, serve the Aaronites and are even described as a gift to Aaron in verse 19 to help them serve. But also the Levites represent the people of Israel, as they are the ones who lay hands on the Levites as an offering in verse 10, which then Aaron presents to the Lord in verse 11. Although the Levites are seemingly of a lesser status than the priests, they all belong to that inner circle around which the rest of the tribes camp. Their role is to protect and maintain the tabernacle, to help facilitate atonement for Israel, and to defend the sanctuary by killing anyone who comes too close. In this way, they also protect Israel so that plagues may not kill even more. Their specialness is affirmed by the Lord himself as he repeats that the Levites belong to him, that they replace the firstborn owed to God after the deadliest plague in the Exodus. Later in Israel, during the monarchy, the priesthood came under the control of Zadok, who was one of the 2 priests of David who carried the ark. The other was Abiathar. When David was about to die, one of his sons, Adonijah, proclaimed himself David's successor, and Abiathar sided with him. Zadok and Nathan the prophet remained with David and anointed Solomon as king. Solomon settled accounts with Adonijah and his supporters, and Abiathar the priest was banished. His life was spared out of a respect for the fact that he had carried the Ark of the Covenant. So Zadok and his descendants looked after the Ark and ministry in Jerusalem. In the exilic visions of Ezekiel, when he describes the new temple, Zadok is given the priesthood again, and the Levites are to be servants, doing various things in and around the temple. In the troubled times between the Old and New Testament, the Zadokite high priest was murdered by the Syrian Empire, which controlled Israel at that time. His successor and family fled to Leontopolis in Egypt, where they built a replica temple. After this, a priest called Mattathias began what is known as the Maccabean Revolt, and his sons, having recaptured Jerusalem and the temple from the Syrians, rededicated it back to God from Zeus, and served as interim priests until a prophet could reveal what should be done. However, what was initially interim became permanent, and what became known as the Hasmonean dynasty rolled on until the Romans took over and installed Herod. These Maccabean brothers who served as priests eventually took to themselves the title of king as well. The Essene community, who lived in various places, including Qumran, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, are thought to be priests who were appalled that the temple was being run by non-Zadokites. Thus they sought to form a temple community of their own and await the judgment of God to settle matters. This is the situation then into which Jesus was born. Later on in the book of Hebrews, the author discusses Jesus' role as high priest and the seeming problem that he was not an Aaronite, that is, not from the tribe of Levi and not specifically a descendant of Aaron. It is here that the author turns to Melchizedek from Genesis to show that Jesus belongs to this priestly lineage and is therefore superior to the Aaronic ministry. But as for the details, we shall have to wait until we get to Hebrews. From the perspective of Numbers and the Torah in general, these things are a very long way off, but unbeknownst to them, this is their glorious destiny to which their ministry points.